And now your host, Richard Thomas.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Miracle. The stories you're about to see all have one thing in common, the unexpected. And even after you've seen them, you'll still be scratching your head wondering, how could that possibly have happened? Well, that's the beauty of a miracle. It defies explanation. And our first story also defies the laws of probability. If you've ever been wronged and wished for swift justice, you're going to love this one. Life in Verona, Mississippi is quiet, safe, and relatively peaceful. But on May 15th, 2001, all that was about to change. It began as Jim and Colette Stanley left to celebrate their daughter Rebecca's birthday.
The morning started off really nice, and Becca was so excited because she got to pick where we ate for her birthday. And since it was a family affair, Jamie left his car at home, and we all jumped in the car, and everybody was excited about going out to eat.
It's not often that we're all together, so this was one of those days when we were all going to be together.
As the Stanley family happily headed out from home, someone else was breaking in.
We stopped and had lunch, and then from there, they took me on to work. I work for American Family Radio, and what I do there is I'm a member of the on-air staff. I get to play the music, share stuff, give stuff away every now and then, so, you know, I have one of the greatest jobs in the world. Coming up on 29 and a half past the hour, you're tuned to American Family Radio. There are so many choices you can make, but you've chosen to be with us, and I thank you.
After we dropped Jim off, I turned the radio on to Jim's show. We headed home, and I was thinking about what we had to do.
We're going to run home for just a second, and then Becca will go and see about the play.
By the time Colette and her children arrived home, they'd only been away 2 hours. But in that short time, a lot had happened.
When we pulled up in the driveway, we saw that Jamie's car door was open.
Oh.
So as soon as I stopped, Jamie jumps out, because, you know, that's his car.
Oh, look at this.
It was trashed, and the CD player was ripped out, and the cords were hanging everywhere.
Look at the car. Everything's trashed.
I mean, I was just so shocked.
I just bought the CD player.
Oh, no.
As soon as Jamie told me that the car was broke into, I went into the house to call the police. That's when I realized the car wasn't the only thing that had been broke into.
Colette could barely believe what she was seeing. Her home had been ransacked.
You could hardly walk through the room because of all the stuff that was all over the floor. It was just unreal what they had done.
Mom, come look.
Oh, no.
Look at this.
Everything was everywhere. My hockey equipment was all over the floor. Sheets, clothes, posters ripped off the wall.
Jamie, I'm so sorry.
I felt very mad that whoever had done this, you know, you just want for them to pay, I guess you could say.
Mom!
Rebecca soon discovered that her room had also not been spared.
My jewelry box was open, my drawers were open, and stuff had been pulled down from my closet. When I looked at what had happened, I was sad and scared. It was just not something I wanted to see on my birthday.
That's when I went into my room, and then I looked and saw that my jewelry was gone. My grandmother's ring is gone. And I think that was the first thing that made me think of how horrible this was. I know there were things there that might have been worth a little more, but to me, that was the one that was worth the most, was that ring. My grandmother's ring is gone. And I just sat down on the bed and started crying.
In her shock and confusion, Colette had forgotten to call 911. And when she finally did, she was in for another scare.
And I got a lady on the phone, and I told her our house has been burglarized.
No, we've been through the house.
And she said, did you look in the closets? And I said, no, we didn't look in the closets. She said, well, you need to get out of the house. They could still be in there.
Becca, get out of the house. We've got to go right now. Let's just get out of the house.
What do you mean get out of the house?
I'm sorry, guys.
Once Colette and her children were safely outside, she took a moment to call Jim before the police arrived.
AFR, this is Jim. I got a phone call from Colette, and she was just sobbing.
I need you to come home now.
Calm down. There was terror in her voice. It's okay, calm down, I'll find a way. I felt the urgency, but also I said, you know, honey, you dropped me off. How am I gonna get home? So I went into engineering and I asked them if I could borrow a van, and they said, sure. When I left work, my primary concern was getting home as quickly as I could.
As Jim left the radio station, Verona police officer Jim Levine arrived at the Stanley home.
When I arrived on the scene, they were very shook up. They couldn't believe that somebody just broke into their house.
Car is trashed, the CD player ripped out, dash ripped out.
The whole house is trash, the whole
Our main concern was to make sure the house was secure, that the perpetrators were not inside the house. When we entered the house, we drew our weapons and we proceeded with caution. Clear. We didn't know if they might have hidden in the closets or under the bed if they were still in the residence. We walked through it carefully, checked each bedroom and closet and under each bed. Clear. And did not find anybody.
With the residence secure, Officer Levine began writing his report. By this time, Jim was only a short distance away.
I was cutting across the back way because there's not a lot of traffic. I wasn't worried about anything that had been taken. The only thing I was worried about, was getting there to them.
But what Jim saw next stopped him dead in his tracks.
Maybe a mile from the house, I see these two boys coming up the road, and one of them was carrying a really large bag, and I realized it was Jamie's hockey bag. I saw these two kids with stuff that belonged to us, and I said, that's not right. And so I pulled over and I asked them if they needed a ride.
Give you fellas a ride?
They were sweating, and they were obviously tired because they had walked about a mile with this stuff.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, hop in.
The community we live in, folks still help folks. So the boys were relaxed. They were relieved to be in out of the heat. I didn't know whether the kids were armed or not, but I had the security that they didn't know who I was, and they didn't know where we were going.
Where you fellas headed?
Going home.
And so I asked them, I said, where do you live? And they told me where they lived.
All right, well, I've got to run an errand, and then I'll take y'all on to the house.
All right, that's cool.
Well, they didn't know that the errand I had to run was to get them to the police.
The road to the police station would take Jim near his home.
There's a curve in our road that you have to slow down for. So the boys didn't think anything about me slowing down at that point.
And the trip to the authorities suddenly became much shorter.
All right, you boys don't try and run now.
And They were just stunned. There was no resistance, but there was just a look of devastation that came over them, you know, just utter defeat.
What's wrong?
Get the officer. Get the officer.
And so the officer comes out and he says what's going on.
I think I've got the guys that robbed the house.
Then I felt a great sense of relief.
Keep your hands up where I can see them. Get your hands up.
Because I knew that I didn't have to worry about them getting away anymore.
Where'd you get this stuff at?
The police officers immediately took charge of the situation.
He started going through their pockets and he says, "Does any of this stuff look like yours?" And everything in their pockets, except just a couple of things, were ours.
Look like it belongs to you?
Yes, sir. That's our stuff. That's Jamie's stereo.
They laid all the stuff out on the car.
It's my grandmother's ring. It's my grandmother's ring.
I'm glad you got it back, baby.
I just thought, you know, thank you, God, I got the ring back. And it was just so wonderful to look and see we had it all back.
Come on, guys. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you're the man, Jim. You're the man. Jim took a big risk by picking up these boys. A lot of juveniles today carry guns, knives. It took a lot of courage. 12 years that I've been patrolling the streets, never had anything like this happen. I could tell by the look in their eyes. It happened so fast, they didn't know what hit them.
As the stunned burglars were escorted to the police station, Officer Levine made another chilling discovery.
These belong to y'all?
Yeah, they do. We've been missing those.
Still kind of frozen, too. It was funny to see that the popsicles were still cold and that the popsicles were one of their items that they had stolen.
After the trying events of the day, the Stanleys were grateful to laugh again, and especially grateful that everything had worked out for the best.
I don't believe in luck as much as I believe in God and what God can do. And I truly feel that God had a hand in this. We left the house at 12:30. We took Jim to work. We got home at 2:30. The police were there before 3 o'clock. And the kids were arrested probably before 3:30. That to me was a miracle. You know, things don't happen that quick.
I realized how fortunate we were to catch the kids, because out of everything else that their parents didn't teach them, they also didn't teach them not to take rides with strangers.
I think that God had his hand on this so much and so well that he protected Jim.
What did they do then?
I don't know what I would have done if something had happened to him. I just praise God that nothing did.
Catching a thief is one way to get back a priceless memento, but we have another, and it's just as amazing. This time, it's not about being in the right place at the right time. In fact, it's about being so far away that you would never, ever imagine there's a happy ending in store. During his career as a traveling salesman, Keith Klain made friends all over New England. To his youngest son, Jonathan, Keith was larger than life.
He had a presence, a way where if you met my dad, you never forgot him. He was really the model for me, my hero. We had a really special relationship.
Sadly, in 1996, Jonathan lost his father to lung cancer.
It was terrible. It was heartbreaking for all of us. And my mom, even through her tears, did manage to say that his suffering had ended.
That spring, Jonathan and his family began the difficult process of moving on with their lives.
It was a little while after my dad had passed away that my mom made the decision to sell the house. And we were going through some of Dad's more personal effects. And all of a sudden, I found this ring. And I admired it. I mentioned it to my mom. Do you recognize it?
Yes, it was your dad's. It was his father's, too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And my mom said, you know, Johnny.
Would you like it?
Yeah.
Well, then you keep it. It looks good on you.
Thanks. When I found the ring, even though it wasn't one that I remembered him wearing, just instantly I knew that this was the linkage between me and my dad, and this was a way that I could really maintain that connection for the rest of my life.
Jonathan took the ring to a local jeweler, Mark Larson.
Hi, Jonathan.
How you doing?
Great, how are you?
Good.
When he brought the ring in, we examined it, and we found that the center was a little loose, and that needed to be tightened.
You can size it?
We can definitely size it. And it also was a little big for Jonathan, so he needed to have it resized.
After the resizing, the ring became an integral part of Jonathan's life.
I wore it all the time. It had become so much a part of me that having it off felt very unnatural. And by wearing it, it's a constant physical as well as visual reminder of him and our relationship.
For years, Jonathan wore the ring in loving memory of his father, until one spring day in 2001.
It was pretty much a typical Saturday, trying to get the usual household stuff done. I was gathering up the recycling to take it to our recycling center in town, scrambling to get this all done. I felt good doing my environmentally sound thing. I get back to the house and I've got a bunch of chores around the house to do. And there was this piece of gutter that I had to do a little quick fix to. So I'm working on the gutter, just kind of sweating a little bit. And I looked down and saw the glove fall down to the ground, and at the same time, I looked down at my hand, and it's bare. My dad's ring is gone.
Jonathan climbed back down the ladder, hoping he would find the ring inside his glove.
And of course, it wasn't there. The emotions are really welling up inside of me. I can't believe it. I feel great sorrow and sadness and concern and, oh my God, where could it be? So I started spreading my search out a bit. I just could not find it anywhere. And I went inside, and my wife looked at me and said, "What's wrong?"
What?
I lost my dad's ring.
He couldn't believe that it had happened.
I was outside working on the
He was
gutters,
devastated.
and I dropped the glove, and I noticed it was gone.
We looked all over the house, but no, it wasn't anywhere to be found. When he really realized we might not find it, he was heartbroken because it was a link to his father.
At that point, I felt in my heart that I had lost it. By the same token, I had somehow lost a part of my connection with my dad.
2 weeks later, and 1,500 miles away in Orlando, Florida, another man, Michael Duquette, receives a special delivery.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ah, must be my golf clubs.
I was expecting a package from my dad, and this was it.
Thank you.
He was sending me a set of golf clubs. And I open the top of the box, and I pull out this bag that's filled with about 4 million little packing peanuts, and they're everywhere. So they're all over the place. And as I'm starting to pick up, I see this shiny gold object on the floor. And I go and pick it up, and I see that it's a ring. I knew the clubs were my uncle's, and he had recently passed away. And I figured, well, maybe this ring belongs to my uncle.
Michael immediately called his mother, Joyce.
Hello?
Hi, Mom.
But as he described the ring to her, the mystery only deepened.
It's a gold ring, and there's a black stone and a gold letter of some sort on the top of that stone.
So I said, it's not a ring that I recognize, Michael. I have no idea how it would have gotten there. And I don't think it was Uncle John's.
A few days later, Joyce flew from Maine to Florida to spend some time with her son. And Michael immediately showed her the ring.
Oh, it's a beautiful ring.
It wasn't anything I recognized, but I knew it was an heirloom. That was a given.
Match. But it shows a lot of wear. It's been made small. So probably.
And it must have really meant something to someone.
Somebody's grandfather.
Because it looked like it was either a father's ring or a grandfather's ring.
Is there any way we could find out who owns this ring? How would we even begin to get it back to the owner?
I said, I'll take the ring back to Maine with me and see if I can locate an owner, because I figured that it had to have come from somebody who packed the golf clubs.
3 weeks later, Joyce returned to Maine and the mail-it-quick shop that had shipped the golf clubs.
Hi.
Hi, can I help you?
Yes. I found a piece of jewelry in a box of packing peanuts, and I wonder if anyone here has lost a piece of jewelry.
I don't know. Let me check.
I checked with the people there, and no one had lost the ring.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
So I thought, what am I going to do now? I thought, when I go downtown again, I will take it to a jewelry store. Maybe they can tell me something about it. Well, there were 3 jewelry stores on Main Street. I wasn't sure which one I would stop at. I thought I would take it to Tardif's. He sells estate jewelry, and I thought maybe he'll know something about it. But there was no parking place in front of his store. And Larson's is across the street, and right on the corner in front of that store was a parking place.
Joyce had no idea that fate was leading her to the one store in the world that might recognize the ring.
The lady said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I really hope so."
You have a ring here, and I'd like you to look at it.
So I took the ring out of my purse and I showed her.
Interesting.
And she looked it over, and she didn't have a whole lot to say about it.
It's an old ring, too.
Joyce was just about to leave when fate took a hand.
My clerk came over and said that this customer had a ring that she wanted me to look at.
I wonder if you can tell me anything about this.
Wow. I certainly can. I recognize this ring.
And I recognized it immediately as a customer of mine because I'd worked on the ring before. And I was astonished. So I went over to the phone and dialed up Jonathan.
Jonathan was surprised when he saw Larson's name come up on the caller ID. But the real surprise was yet to come.
I was just wondering if you happen to have lost a piece of jewelry lately?
Oh my God, my dad's ring. And it was like thunderstruck. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is unbelievable, you know, my dad's ring. And he says, yeah, I've got it here in front of me.
That's great.
I'm like, how did you get it?
Well, let me put the lady on that brought it in so she can explain to you. Hold on.
So he introduces me to this really nice lady.
Hi, Jonathan. This is Joyce.
She said, well, you're not going to believe this, but it fell out of a box of golf clubs in Orlando, Florida.
I can't believe it.
Here I am up in Fairfield, Maine, and she's telling me that my ring that I lost somewhere in Maine showed up in a box of golf clubs in Orlando, Florida.
Okay, listen, Jonathan, how do I get it back to you?
Well, I couldn't wait to get that ring back to him. So when he explained to me where he lived, I said, my goodness, you're on the road I travel all the time. It's on my way home.
Jonathan could hardly wait for Joyce to pull into his driveway.
Hi.
Hi, Jonathan.
You must be Joyce.
I am. Nice to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, too. Oh, my God, my dad's ring.
I was just full of joy and happiness.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
There's my dad's ring. I mean, still, I almost can't believe it, but there it is.
What happened? How did you get it?
As Joyce explained how her son had found the ring, the pieces of the mystery began to fall into place.
It took me a second, but I really focused on the packing peanuts.
Jonathan flashed back to the chores he'd done the day he'd lost the ring.
And one of the many things I was doing was gathering up all of these packing peanuts to bring to the Mail It Quick to give to them.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
It must have fallen off of my hand somehow into one of these bags of packing peanuts.
Jonathan and Joyce both marveled at the incredible journey the ring had taken.
I am too.
Outside of being a miracle, the full circle that ring took, I just can't describe it any other way.
The only way that I've really come to explain this is that my dad brought it back to me.
Here we go, yeah.
This is so miraculous that this happened.
All right, it's going to fit good this time?
It's there to stay.
All right.
It's a great story. Of course, for me, that I got the ring back.
It fits you well. It's great on there.
But what's really wonderful to me is that so many people are so caring and so kind in our community.
Where it came back to us.
My dad was all about people. He really saw the good in people. And Dad's long since passed away, but he still has a hand in it and is still teaching me about the beauty of life and the beauty of people, and that's great.
When you lose something with so much sentimental value, to have it returned has to feel like a miracle. And no one knows that feeling better than Jonathan Klain. He and Joyce Duquette join us now from Waterville, Maine. Hello there.
Hi, Richard.
First of all, Jonathan, have you taken any extra precautions with your ring now that you've got it back?
Yeah, at this point, it never comes off my hand. Mark put a nice ring guard on it, and now it's actually pretty hard to get it to come off. I don't even bother trying.
I bet you're glad of that, Joyce.
I'm very glad of that. That was my last words to him. Don't lose it again. You may not get it back.
Have you ever thought of having your name put on it?
Yeah, at this point, Mark said, whenever I'm ready, bring it in, and he'll engrave it with my grandfather's initials, and then my dad's initials and my initials, and we'll save a space at the bottom, and it's going to eventually be handed to my younger son, Ian, and we'll have the space there so he can have his initials put on it, too, at that time.
Well, I'm sure that with the incredible story that comes with the ring, your son will also be very protective of this family heirloom. Meanwhile, you keep that ring on your finger.
Will do, Richard. Thanks.
And thanks to both of you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye.
Our next story takes us into a different realm of the unexpected, something called intuition. And as you're about to see, when you pay close attention to your inner feelings and follow your hunches, it could mean the difference between life and death. Linda Parsons, Kathy Burke, and their supervisor, Joanne Furman, had worked together as nurses at the Southern New Hampshire Medical Center for over 10 years. But they were more than just co-workers.
We're best friends. We've just worked very closely together and learned a lot about each other's families and supporting one another when there was an up or a down, whether it was family or work-related.
But on a cold winter morning, their friendship would face its most difficult test. Linda and Kathy had arrived for work at the same time that morning, which was slightly unusual.
I wasn't due in there till 9. I happened to meet up with Kathy in the parking lot. She's generally due there for 8:30, but things were running a little bit late.
What was even more unusual was that Joanne hadn't arrived yet to unlock the urgent care unit.
Strange, Joanne should be here by now.
Well, she could have got caught in traffic or her car might not have started. At first, I was not alarmed. I thought maybe she stopped at the clinic where she supervised that facility as well. And that's probably where she got hung up. At about 10 after 9, I thought, I'll call the clinic, I'll see if she got hung up over there. And she hadn't stopped in there.
And I had said to Linda, I said, this isn't like Joanne not to call. She always calls if she's going to be late.
So then we tried her at home.
Hi, Joanne. This is Linda calling from work. We're just kind of wondering where you are.
And I thought, you know, if she woke up late, she would have called us before she hopped in the shower.
Bye.
At that point, I got concerned.
Anything yet?
Nothing. I tried her at home. I left a message on her answering machine. I called the clinic. They haven't seen Joanne either.
My first concern was that she got in an accident. The road she takes into work is notorious for accidents.
And so they decided to contact other hospital emergency rooms to see if a woman of Joanne's description had been admitted.
It's getting close to 9:30 in the morning at this point, and while I'm doing the phone calls, I had asked Kathy if she wanted me to bring the patients back, and she had said, no, you be on the phone and I'll take care of the patients.
When you have a seat, take your jacket off, please. As I was bringing back the patients and we still hadn't gotten hold of Joanne, I was becoming quite concerned. So the next step was to get a hold of her husband's place of work.
Brian's not at his work either. So now I have a husband and a wife who are responsible people, who are not where they should be, and no one has heard from them.
I think I'm going to have to call the Wilton police.
Yeah, you do that, I'll try to.
Something is wrong. And I knew it at that point. Something was wrong. What ran through my head was a break-in. Maybe somebody broke in and killed them.
Mac Base 202.
Deputy Police Chief Jim Green was immediately dispatched to Joanne and Brian Furman's home.
And Joanne Furman, phone call from a co-worker, wants a welfare check.
10-5, I'll be en route.
943.
It was a fairly normal situation. When we do get calls like that, we will go and check a residence.
10-5.
There was 3 vehicles in the driveway. I couldn't tell whether anyone was home or not. The shades were drawn and everything appeared normal. I knocked several times on the door. I had no response. I did go around to the side entrance to the house. I knocked several times. Nothing looked amiss. I notified the dispatch center that I was clearing the residence. And at that time, I'm thinking that, you know, they could have gone off with friends. They could just be sleeping in, trying to get rest. After I left, the dispatch center advised me that Linda was on the phone again. And so he patched me through when I talked directly to her on the phone.
Now listen, this is not like Joanne or Brian. Neither one of them would just not show up. This is not like them. They're both responsible individuals.
She was very adamant that something was wrong. I tried to explain to her that everything appeared normal at the residence other than nobody answering the door.
Well, when he told me that he saw the cars, my heart sank because I knew they were in there. I knew they weren't able to answer. You've got to get in there. You have got to get in there. They are there. Something is very wrong.
Well, we just don't break into someone's house because they don't show up for work.
I take full responsibility for whatever you have to do to get in there, but you need to get in there.
Okay, I will go back and check the residence again. I could tell there was concern in her voice. And so I turned around, I came back to the residence.
As Deputy Green arrived at the Furman home for the second time that day, he too was beginning to believe that something might be terribly wrong. And yet he was still reluctant to enter the house.
Anytime we enter somebody's house uninvited, it's an awkward situation. I went around and knocked on the back door. Again, I received no answer. I tried the door and it was open. Hello? 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 It's the Wilton Police. Hello? Anyone home? I called out hello several times, identifying myself as the Wilton Police. And I listened. And I did hear a noise. Hello?
While Officer Green searched the Furman home, Kathy anxiously waited for his report, fearing the worst.
My impression at that point was they did get in, and they found them dead, that they were dead.
A few minutes later, and Linda's prediction would have come true. The Furmans were unconscious and near death from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Mr. Furman! Mr. Furman, it's the police! I got a moan from Mr. Furman, but nothing that would indicate that he understood or comprehended anything I was saying. Hi, it's 202. I'm at the
Jim Green immediately requested emergency assistance from the fire department and paramedics.
The fire department come in with their sniffer, which determines the levels of carbon monoxide in the residence. And they said that they were extremely high.
Take some deep breaths, Joanne.
While paramedics administered oxygen to the two victims, the fire department searched the house and discovered that a break in the Furman's furnace had produced such lethal levels of carbon monoxide that they were just minutes away from death. As soon as Deputy Green learned where the Furmans were being taken, he contacted Linda and Kathy.
I jumped on that phone like you wouldn't believe. And it was Officer Green, and he said, and they're both en route right now to CMC Medical Center for suspected carbon monoxide poisoning. To Catholic Medical Center. And I started sobbing, could not stop.
We were so relieved.
If Linda had not made that second phone call and been as persistent as she was, this whole incident could have turned out very tragic.
In just a matter of days, Joanne Furman was back at the urgent care unit with the co-workers and friends who had saved her life.
Oh my God! Oh, Joanne!
I really felt like they were guardian angels for us. There was a reason that they worked so hard to find out what was wrong and why I wasn't at work. I don't even know how to explain it. It's my life. I wouldn't have my life if it wasn't for them.
If it hadn't been the group effort of everybody. Brian's not at the cages either. The emergency room people trying to find Brian. The clinic with their numbers that they had for me. If it hadn't have been for Kathy being there to do my job for me while I was doing this.
I will go back and check the residence again.
If it hadn't been for Officer Green, who was willing to listen to somebody who can be annoying at times, if it wasn't everything lumped together, the end wouldn't have been the positive end result that we have.
Between the three of us, there is a very special bond that will never change. I don't think anybody can ever do anything bigger or greater than saving somebody's life. And I think that we'll always be really involved with each other.
I think that there was an angel somewhere telling me that we needed to get somebody in here to help them. So, yeah, I do. I think it was a miraculous thing. So much for my hair and makeup job.
Joanne Furman and her husband Brian were extremely lucky. Each year, hundreds of people lose their lives to accidental carbon monoxide poisoning. And one of the reasons that everyone was anxious to tell this story was to, hopefully, save other lives. Joanne and her two guardian angels join us now from Wilton, New Hampshire. Hello there. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
This is a tough question, but what do you think changed this story from a possible tragedy to, well, a miracle?
I believe that the persistence, if you're feeling a strong feeling that something is not right, you got to follow that and just keep until you get what you're after.
Absolutely. If you have a feeling that you need to check on someone, no matter what the reason, go for it. You know, even if you look silly, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think you all proved that. Joanne, what lessons have you learned from this experience?
I've learned to really cherish each day as it comes and goes, to love everyone around you, to see the good in people, and to really know how important it is to get the word out that carbon monoxide detectors are very important in all the homes.
Which brings us to the reason we're here tonight. This is a carbon monoxide detector. It's very much like a smoke detector and equally important. But if you don't have gas heating, do you still need one of these?
Everyone needs to have them. It doesn't matter what kind of heat they have. Fireplaces, wood stoves, anybody has to have carbon monoxide detectors. And they only cost anywhere from $25 up, and they really need to put them in there because you never know when there'll be something plugged in your system that's going to make it back up.
Well, that's good sound advice, and I hope everyone listening takes it to heart. Anyway, thank you for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, that's our show for now. Thank you for joining us. And a special thanks to all the people who shared their remarkable stories tonight on It's a Miracle. It's our hope that whenever you need one, you'll find a miracle in your life, too. Until next time, I'm Richard Thomas. Goodbye.